Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well today. Michael coming back at you guys with special guest. Elise, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
having
being here. Hey,
me.
thanks for being here. No problem. Hey, if you don't mind, we're coming at all our listeners, anyone new, anyone still listening in, thank you guys. We're coming at you guys with a series about the game plan to civilian life. All right. So we're talking to all type of people that were in the military. So if you don't mind, at least for all the listeners out there, just give us a little bit of a backstory on you, why you joined the military, and then kind of lead us up to the point where you started thinking about, transitioning out and what that looked like at first.
Okay, so I joined the Army right out of high school. And frankly, I had been fascinated with the military for a long time. Particularly, you're way too young, but back in the day, there was a show called China Beach, and Dana Delaney played this nurse in Vietnam. And I was just like, I wanted to be her so bad. So I go to an Army recruiter, and I had gotten a scholarship for nursing school, but I knew that at that point in my life, I wasn't mature enough to like go to school and be accountable and I was a terrible student. And so I joined the Army, and I thought I was going to do something medical. And instead, they put me as a 75 Bravo, which back in the day was a personnel administration specialist. So I used to work in the PAC.
Okay.
And my first duty station, this is the best story. I joined the Army to see the world. I grew up in Connecticut, and they sent me to New Jersey, Fort Dix, New Jersey. And
Right next door.
I was like, what the hell? Like all my other friends that were in AIT, they were getting Germany, they were getting Korea, there were all these like cool areas, and they were upset. They wanted to like get closer to home. And I was like, no, I joined the military to see the world. So anyways, fast forward, I went Fort Dix in Korea, and then I got out, got married, had my son, went to nursing school, came back in the Army Reserves, even though I had really wanted to come back on active duty, but it was at the end of the Iraq War, the Gulf
Okay.
War. And they just weren't hired. Like, people don't really understand that the military has hiring cycles. And they're like, hey, we can't give you active duty commission. We'll give you the reserves. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. And was working in the civilian sector at the time, but I just missed the military community. So, and I still had that fantasy of being a military nurse. So then I went to a conference, and I met some Air Force nurses, and 3 of them were prior Army. They're like, girl, just go to see Air Force recruiter, you get in. And I did that Monday. I went to an Air Force recruiter, and I said, hey, I really want to come back on active duty. I'm prior Army. And he's like, great, let's do it. And, 6 weeks later, I was heading to officer basic course. And this is after I had done my officer basic course in the Army. And yeah, actually, it was kind of cool because I was at Army Reserve Officer Basic Course, and they pulled me out of formation one day. And they're like, Lieutenant Fernandez, because I was Fernandez at the time. They were like, we heard that you got a commission in the Air Force. And up to that point, I did not know. So they were the ones that notified me that I got a commission in the Air Force. And they're like, thanks for betraying the Army and all that crap that they
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to get that.
Yeah. So I spent 27 years in the military total. I retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2014, spent a tour in Afghanistan. And frankly, I came back from Afghanistan, and I did a joint task force. So really what it meant was that I deployed with Army Special Forces as an Air Force nurse. And, they really didn't know what we were going to be doing there. They basically said they had a request for forces, and the Navy turned it down, and the Air Force is like, oh yeah, we'll send our nurses out there. But when we got to Bagram and we went to the Special Forces camp, this Army lieutenant colonel was like, oh man, you guys are all like majors, captains, lieutenant colonels. And she was like, we just wanted like some senior level medics. And we're all looking at each other like, lady, why are you telling us that? I was like, really? So anyways, long story short, spent a few months in Afghanistan. I think I was gone for almost a year, and came back, got promoted to lieutenant colonel. And, frankly, one day there was a couple things that kind of led up to it, but I was like looking around. I was like, I think I'm done. I just think I'm done. And I literally sat down and did a pros and cons list of me staying in and me getting out. And I decided to drop my retirement paperwork. I, at that point, I was 27 years in. And the one thing I will tell the audience is, if you're planning on getting out of the military for whatever reason, have a freaking plan. Don't just get out and think that the world is your oyster. It is. But the civilian sector is different than the military, and man, it can be brutal out there. So I got out of the military, retired. In hindsight, I really should have done one more assignment as a lieutenant colonel, but that's, hindsight's 2020. And I moved cross country from Colorado because I was at the Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, and I came to Washington because I had gotten a job as a nurse practitioner at Madigan Army Medical Center. So here's my first advice for anyone listening and that's in the middle of a transition. Do not move to a new location for a job. I cannot stress this enough. Move to a location that, one, you have a community or support system, that you have family close by, and that it has, and make sure that it's intentional. And what I mean by this is, I knew that I wanted to move to a place that was close to an international airport because I love to travel. I knew that I wanted to be somewhere where there were universities, because generally, towns that have universities are just more diverse, more culture and all of that. I wanted to be near a military base because I wanted to be able to have the ability to use my benefits. And I wanted to be near a major hospital because, frankly, shit happens, Yeah. So, and the last thing was, I really wanted a house with a view. I got really spoiled in Colorado, and you've been to Colorado, where everywhere you look, there's just gorgeous views of the mountains. And that's how I kind of ended up in Washington. But what I didn't take into consideration was, I didn't really know anybody here. It took me 6 years of a lot of networking to build relationships in the support system. And that's a long time. It's not like you're going to a new base where you have an instant building community. And if something happens to your kid or your car breaks down, you can call Joe Schmo and say, hey, buddy, can you come pick me up? I didn't have that. Right. And people don't think about that, because when you transition, you think, okay, I'm going to go where the job is. That's fine. But as you know, Michael, when you get out of the military and you separate or retire, you will statistically, most veterans will have about 5 different jobs before they find their home professionally. And you may go and move across country for a job that may not be there a year later. And then you're in an area that you don't really like. You don't have any friends. You don't have any family. And then you're kind of stuck in a way, because moving is super freaking expensive. Like, if after I left my job at Madigan, if I would have decided that I was going to move and sell my house and everything, it would have cost me like 25 grand to move cross country. Wow. And that's a lot of freaking money that I wasn't necessarily. Luckily, I love where I live. I live in Washington State. It is amazing here. It's gorgeous and basically has everything I need. And I've also gotten remarried, so I've kept here. But here's the thing: my family's all on the East Coast. So guess what I'm doing at least twice a year? I'm spending a lot of money to fly over to see my parents that are aging and see my nephews and nieces. And if I would have had someone mentor me as I was retiring to say, hey, you may want to really consider what you're doing, moving so far away from family, because I would have taken that into consideration, even though I had looked at jobs on the East Coast. But as a nurse practitioner at the time, I wasn't finding anything that was adequate, that was willing to pay me or compensate me adequately. I remember finding jobs in Connecticut for like $85,000. And I was like, Connecticut's freaking expensive. I was like, I'm like way past that. I made that when I was a young nurse. So I guess my biggest thing to transitioning veterans, or even people that are considering a professional move, is if you're going to move somewhere, really consider that move and be intentional, and really check out the area to see if that's somewhere that, if the job doesn't work out, you wouldn't mind living there. And realizing that it takes a long time in the civilian sector to build those support networks and build those support systems and have friends. And you at this point in your career may not think that that's important, but it really is. It really is. Community is so important. And anybody that's been in the military for any amount of time understands that it's not the job or where you're stationed, it's the people. You could be in the most crappiest location, but if you are surrounded with good people, it's going to be okay.
No, you're absolutely right. Because I mean, when you're in Afghanistan or overseas, if you have good people, it's going to make or break it. And like when I first got the sour taste in my mouth was when I went to my second duty station, which was Germany. But I got under bad leadership, and and even though I was in a great place like Germany, if you have people that are above you or below you that are making it hard, it's not gonna pan out well. So that's absolutely correct what you said. And to go back a little bit. So you never even thought about getting out the military probably for the first like 25 years, did you?
There were days that were hard.
Yeah.
There were days that were hard. But I really had fun in the military. I love the people. I love the adventure. I love moving every few years. I loved all the opportunities. Listen, I was a person that I took advantage of every single educational training opportunity, TDY, assignment that would come up. In fact, that's how I ended up in England. I was a lieutenant at Andrews Air Force Base, and one of the girls got orders to England, and she didn't want to go because she was getting ready to separate from the military. She was getting ready to get married. I went to my chief nurse and I said, I don't know what I have to do, but my dream is to go overseas. What do I have to do? And she's like, okay, you have to learn labor and delivery. And I'm like, ugh. I was not digging that. But let me tell you, I went to labor and delivery, learned my shit. And then a few months later, I was on my way to England, and that was a transformative assignment for me. And it fulfilled so much of my dreams of traveling and exploring and showing my son, different cultures. And it was just fantastic. So if you're in the military and you're not taking advantage of every single program and opportunity and educational, money, funding, whatever that's available, why are you there? I mean, you're serving your country. They're providing you all these different opportunities. Take advantage of them.
Get your passport and get out there and and see stuff for a record, like you said, for leisure too. Because once you're in Europe, as we know, the Ryanair is not that expensive. The train can get you everywhere. You're flying cheaper than Delta. You're flying cheaper than Spirit.
Absolutely. I traveled so much when I was there. Even up until the week I left, I was in the hole 8 or 10 days of leave because I was I don't know if they let you do that now. Yeah,
no, they probably don't because of you. They probably got a clause, a lease clause. Hey, you guys can't go more than 8 days, man. The lease blew all them days and got out. So you're right though. What was your favorite place in Europe that you've seen?
Oh gosh,
so many of them.
There were, I really loved England, but Norway's absolutely breathtaking.
Nice.
Norway's and also the Chateau region of France is absolutely stunning, and Italy is just Italy. I mean, and I love Greece. I love Greece. I love my favorite food is Mediterranean food, and the food in Greece is absolutely it's amazing. And there's just so much. I mean,
I know, but you've been to some places I haven't been to. I haven't been to Greece yet. I've been to Italy, France, but not that Chateau region. But I guess mine was probably Portugal was pretty nice. Lisbon was pretty nice, and I'm
going there in September.
Hey, it's beautiful. It's awesome there. It's beautiful. They got good food. They're out all the time. It looks. It's awesome. We could get off on a travel channel next episode. I guess we get on military do's and don'ts of travel, but absolutely. Europe's awesome though. I'm glad to hear that you took advantage of that, and just it's so cheap to move around, and you got all those 4 days all the time, and as long as you're not an MP or a cook like I was, I was a cook. Man, you could barely do anything. Hey, DFAC's open every weekend, and guess what? The saddest part would be all the soldiers lined up to get food. Why are you here right now? Why are you not in Frankfurt or somewhere doing something, man? But that's a whole nother story. Yeah. But so you said some powerful words earlier. You said you wish you would have had a mentor teaching you pretty much how to get out, and that's kind of powerful coming from a lieutenant colonel to me, because on the outside looking in of things, before I started this podcast, I would say, okay, you know what? If you're an E7, you're in the good old boy club, right? That's sort of the stigma that they have in the military. So you figure that the higher ups would be taking care of each other, but it obviously doesn't pan out that way. Not to say like we're throwing anyone under the bus, but no one knows how to get out the military when it's time to get out. So even if you had a general or anyone ahead of you in chain of command, their time hasn't come yet because they're still going to PT in the morning or going to the range. So it's like that was kind of powerful that you said that to put it in perspective.
Yeah, it was, I think it was, I had been out of the military for almost 6 years when I really transitioned.
Wow.
And what had happened was I had gotten laid off from my second job because I left Madigan after 3 years. I was really burnt out. And this is another big thing. If you can't financially afford it, please take some time off between the military and starting your next job. Don't jump right into your next civilian job, because that's what I did. And it was a terrible thing that no one like really talked to. And I financially, I could have totally taken like 3 months off and just kind of like just decompress.
Yeah.
I had just gone through coming back from a really tough deployment. I had just had a really tough divorce. I had just moved cross country. And for the 6 weeks of terminal leave that I got, the house that I'm living in now, I was renting, and the house was a disaster. So I was like cleaning, painting, getting it ready so that it was livable. And when I started work at Madigan, I was exhausted. I was mentally and physically exhausted. And take some freaking time off, even if it's just a few weeks. But if you can afford, especially if you're retiring, take some damn time off. The money will be there. It's okay. You're going to be okay. The disability will come. But take some damn time off, because I don't think most of us, when we transition out, I don't think we realize how tired we are. And I'm not talking about just physically tired, but just mentally tired. And it's like, even, I've been out for 9 years and I still haven't had that time to just kind of just veg.
Decompress, like you said earlier, decompress. Just like there's no one. It seems like you just go from one high stress environment to another one right off the bat. You gotta. It's like you can't. And I did it too. I went right to Alaska on an oil rig cooking. It's like you never even give yourself time to be like, wow, I had 68 days of terminal leave. Maybe I should just enjoy myself.
Absolutely. And the people that do that, I think have even a smoother transition, because they've had time to decompress, spend time with their families, maybe even figure out what they really want to do. Your creative juices come back, and you're coming out of the military system where you have to follow very strict guidelines. You don't know who you are. You don't know what really sparks your joy. You don't know, you may really need to figure out what is that. And this is changing now a lot with social media, with a lot of, military influencers that are doing a lot of cool stuff while they're still on active duty. But when I was in, you get out of the military and you just continue working. And none of my friends, I was the first one out of my close group of friends that actually retired. So they all learned from me, but I didn't have anybody that I could reach out to that I could say like, okay, where do I go? How do I do this? How do I retire? And you go to TAPS, which is complete, excuse my French, was complete bullshit. And they cater to like E4 and below, but they don't really cater to the professionals that are, the officers or whatever, senior ranking. They just figure, oh, you got a degree, you got some training, you'll be okay. Well, it's no. Do you know how many job applications I had to fill out after I got let go from my second job? I got laid off. And that's the time when I really started transitioning, because I got involved in networking. I got involved in veteran community. I got involved in a bunch of different stuff. And I realized that this was a really big issue, and that those of us that were coming out of service were dealing with the same thing, just different ways. No one was telling people, hey, don't just move for a job. Nobody was telling them, hey, take some time off. I kept hearing over and over again with all the people that I mentored and I coached, they were like, not one person has said this to me. You're the first person. And that really changes your perspective.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's crazy just to hear this stuff from people that had so much rank in the military, and it's still not there for you. Like I talked to other people that were sergeant majors and stuff like that, and they would say like they had executive level TAPS program. Did you have that too in the Air Force? Like I didn't even know they had that. I didn't even know they had another level. But did you?
And I don't think at my rank I was I think that's for like '06. I don't know. No, but that wasn't an option for me.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's like E9s or on the enlisted side, then maybe '06 or something like that. But even still, like you said, it was just like seems like the common denominator is it's a check the block type of thing. Hey, get in there. Hey, did you show up today? Yeah. Okay. So that's just crazy. And thank you for what you've been doing to help other people. I'm sure your friends and your colleagues appreciate you. I mean, I do just you don't have to. We don't have to do this stuff with our time, but we choose to because we're trying to help people. So appreciate what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you a little bit. So I worked 3 civilian jobs. My last job, this is the best part. I got terminated. I'm sorry, my light keeps going in and out.
There you go.
I got terminated. And after that, I realized I couldn't keep doing the same thing, which was working for other people and not be fulfilled or happy or burned out. And I invested in a franchise, which is called the Entrepreneur Source, and started my own business. And that's kind of like completely changed my life.
Okay.
So here's another thing to let veterans know. There are so many different opportunities and possibilities out there when you come out of service. You don't just have to go work for the big 5 companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. There's so many different opportunities out there. So really explore and really take the time to talk to a bunch of different people in a lot of different industries, because there's so many opportunities out there that you wouldn't know about unless you talk to a bunch of different people in different industries. So how I help people now is if people are in some kind of professional transition and they don't know what to do next, what I do is really get to know them personally and professionally, holistically, and I help them explore business ownership through franchising. And that may sound really scary, but it's really not. Franchising just means a proven business model, and veterans thrive in this environment. If they have a good credit score and a good funding path forward, and they can find something, if we can find something for them that they can see themselves doing, you can be your own boss and you can be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And there's a lot of cool possibilities out there. So now that's what I'm doing now. I still work as a nurse practitioner part-time just to keep my license up, but that's my fun job. I kind of just do that. And my husband's like, when are you going to quit that job? And I was like, I really like the people. So that's the thing, right? You like the people you work with, so you keep doing this gig.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, for sure on that. Like, why not? You've already done all the school. You've done all the hard part, right? And you've got to that level, so you might as well keep it going. Hey, good for you.
Absolutely.
I want to rewind just a little bit before we start touching on your business that you're doing now. But let me ask you about what did the VA claim process look like when it came time for you to get out the military? Was that something that you were aware of that you did like a year out, or what that look like?
Well, first of all, let me give kudos to the DAV in Colorado Springs. They did an amazing job. And I think they were based out of Carson.
Okay.
I didn't really know how any of that worked. I just kept going down the list and kept doing my appointments. And I had a million appointments, for physical, mental health, x-rays. They went through my records. I mean, I really wish I could remember who the people were that their names, because I would love to give them a thank you so much for what you did. Because I got a great rating and I was not expecting that. And that money has been, life-changing, especially like during the pandemic when everything shut down. But I had a really, really great experience. And the other thing I will tell people that are don't be fucking prideful. Just go to the DAV, go to your appointments and see what rating you're going to get. If you've been in for any amount of time in the military, our body gets so torn up in the military from deployments, from PT testing, from whatever. Just go see. It's a bunch of appointments and paperwork, and let somebody help you, because you may not think it's a big deal, but when you're a civilian and you're between jobs or you have it's expensive, and that money can be completely life-changing for you and your family. And you deserve that. You deserve that. You served your country, and this is how they're paying us back for the service that we did. And don't be prideful and don't be ashamed that you have that you got a disability rating. I mean, I don't boast about it, but I will tell people, and we talked about this before we started recording, I know so many guys that I deployed with who had multiple injuries from multiple deployments. And I know for a fact that when they got out of the military, out of the Army, none of them went through the VA. And I used to it used to drive me crazy. I was like, guys, do you know, like, you did 11 deployments in like 7 years. Go get your ass checked out and see, because you're going to get a rating. It may not be 100, but you're going to get a rating. And that money is life-changing. It's just life-changing. And it's a benefit that people have a lot of shame over or whatever. And listen, I am perfect as, when I think about disability, I'm thinking about the people that are coming back with missing limbs and those kind of things. And I'm like, I don't deserve this. I only deployed once, but you can't think like that, because that's not what the system is there for. The system is really to, give you some payback for saying, hey, thank you for serving our country. And we know that your body, your mental health, whatever, took a toll. And, we want to make things a little bit easier for you. And that's okay.
So what brought you to believe in that, like that, instead of believing like the first thing you said, the stigma of, oh, this is for the people that, had it worse than me? Like, what brought you to see it through all the way through like that?
I think changing my mindset to abundance versus scarcity, and realizing that, my family, I went through a lot in the military, as far as my family suffered a great deal. And I don't mean suffering by that we were poor, nothing like that. I'm just mentally, like, me being away and not being available for all of my son's activities and all of that, and having to move all that time. That's a toll. That takes a toll on kids and your family. I have 2 divorces, which I think in the civilian sector, those divorces might not even occurred, because you would have had like a normal kind of relationship and family life. And I think my mindset is, you know what? I worked really hard in the military. I gave a lot of myself from the age of 18 to 45, 46. And I had a mentor that said to me, Elise, don't feel ashamed and don't feel bad about that rating. You earned that. So that's what you earned. And just have a mindset that you earn that. And luckily I had in Colorado Springs, we had a phenomenal DAV office that really worked with us and really made sure that we got our proper rating. And it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad you got that service that you deserve, like all the other veterans. So good for you.
Absolutely.
And your family. Did you share all that stuff, like, once you were going through it, with all your friends and colleagues from school and everything? Like, let them know what's going on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it was really interesting. I have female veteran friends that we were all in service around the same time, that deployed way more than me, that had really jacked up backs and from injuries and stuff. And they got like 40%. I'm like, girl, you need to go back there and get that. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And I think what made the difference for me is that our DAV office in Colorado Springs was just, they're really there to advocate for you. And if you're in Colorado Springs and you're transitioning out of there, use every single service. Make sure you go to every appointment, and make sure that, don't be prideful about this. This isn't about you being broken or disabled. This is about the military recognizing, hey, we know you served, you did some hard stuff, and this is how we can pay you back a little bit, especially if you're not retiring, especially if you're only did 1, 2 enlistments, but you deployed a million times and your back or hips are all jacked up. And I didn't have a huge medical list, but when you put everything together, there's stuff there. I mean, I've had surgeries, I've had injuries, all of that. So
you had a copy of your medical records and everything. That wasn't because you were in the medical field. So I'm sure that's something that you had a little bit more experience than most people with. Like, hey, make sure this is very important. Make sure it gets into your iPerm or, all of your stuff. Make sure.
Absolutely. And, it's really funny, because being medical, sometimes we would take care of each other across the hallway. Hey, my shoulder's hurting. Can you just order whatever for me? And I really tell my friends now that are still in, I'm like, do not do that. Make sure that all that stuff gets documented in your records, because they have to show a consistent trail of treatment and medication and all of that for that to be part of your rating.
Yeah, we just mentioned that in another podcast. We're talking about, like, you can't you're not going to chapter a soldier out without a packet, right? You got to have
Yeah.
that packet. You got to have that paper trail, right?
Yeah.
You got to, that's very important. So it's a great point that you bring up. Like you said, you could have been getting seen, like, but no one ever put a little note in. So if you were like, oh, I hurt my shoulder, that, like, for instance, for me, I hurt my head one time, and they put in that I hurt my finger, and I said, no, well, I got a concussion. Okay, well, I'm trying to get the concussion paper. Well, nothing's there. Well, how do I prove it then? Nothing there. I didn't, so it's like, so don't wait until the year 27 to say, let me get a copy of my medical records. No, you need to be proactive in it and make sure every time that you go, I need a hard copy of that. And then I don't know what it's like now about being in the service, but I'm sure like va.gov, you can go on and see all your medical records, right? I don't know if they have something like that or like MedPros in, but just be proactive and make sure you guys and girls have all the documentation, because the military loses stuff sometimes too. I mean, it's not like they're always going to have the end all be all. So just be cautious.
Absolutely. And, if you're getting deployed and all of that, keep track of burn pits and all that other stuff. Right now there's a huge military women that have served, women veterans have a much higher breast cancer rate than the normal population.
Wow.
And, this is kind of known in the community a little bit, but we don't really talk about it. And recently, in the last couple of years, I have like 5 or 6 friends that all ended up with breast cancer, no family history. They were in the military. Some of them never even deployed, but it's really interesting that we were all at the same duty station. So it makes you wonder, was there something at Andrews that, that old building that, I don't know, that we got exposed to that we don't know about? So, and people don't want to, they just like, oh, I'm not really a veteran. I didn't deploy. I'm like, listen, if you got through basic training and you served for you did more than a year, you're a veteran. You're considered a veteran. And people don't, that's another thing. People don't like, it amazes me how many times I'm having conversations with like new friends or new females in particular. And they're like, oh yeah, I did the reserves, for a few years, but I'm not a veteran. I'm like, yes, you are. You are.
What are you then? Yeah. What are you then?
Yeah, you served your country. You're one of the 1%. You're like a rarity. So that's another thing that really like makes me crazy is when I hear people that I know they served and they're like, yeah, well, I didn't deploy, so I didn't do anything. I was just whatever. And I was like, you served your country. You wore the uniform. You're a veteran.
Yeah, I got friends like that too. I was like, man, get on here, do an episode with me, man. We got, nah, man, my story's not good. Like, dude, everyone's story is good. That's the beauty of it, man. When no one's on here judging, I'm not going to listen to him because he didn't deploy 20 times to Afghanistan. I'm not going to listen. Like, all right, don't listen to him then. He might have sound advice, man. You could still, there's still stuff out there if you don't have combat deployments. And hey, good for you if you didn't go, man, because if you watch the news recently, it seems like all that stuff just went up in flames anyways. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff, all the money, time, lives spent. But, what helped you get into entrepreneurship? Like what led you there after the layoff and everything like that? What drove you there?
I had 3 civilian jobs when I came out of the military, and my first job at Madigan, I worked my butt off, and the lack of just appreciation or acknowledgement of the work I was doing was really what led me to resign from that position. And then I went to another job, and that job was terrible. It was one of the worst nursing jobs I've ever had. And I prayed in bed that week. And the next couple of days later, be careful what you pray for, I got laid off. And
man,
it was a miracle because it was just not a good fit for me. And then, I'm sorry, my lighting is just so bad and it's driving me crazy.
Oh, you're good.
But, so I did that. And then I was out of work for like 6 months as a nurse and as a nurse practitioner. And I finally decided, I'm like, well, I'm going to have to do something different and just apply for regular nursing jobs. And that's what I did. And I worked at this facility for 15 months. And one day, and I was working there as a manager, and I had to negotiate to see patients because being a nurse practitioner has always been the happiest part of my career. One of the reasons I retired from the Air Force at the time that I did as well is that when you hit 05, they want you to start taking command and doing stuff that I just had zero interest in. It's not that I couldn't do it. I was a good leader, but it just wasn't in my bones. I didn't have that urge to be in command. So I was a manager for this facility and a nurse practitioner. And one day I just realized I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. And where my heart was doing all the advocacy work I was doing for the veteran community and for the healthcare community. And one day I got on Veterottery and I was talking to a coach, a mentor. And she said, have you ever thought about business ownership? And I said, I have. I've thought about it for a long time, but I don't have any grand ideas. And I don't know, my family's all traditional, professions. And she started talking to me about franchising. And it was almost a year to the day before I decided to move forward. But I got terminated and she was the second person I called and I said, I'm going to move forward with this opportunity. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to be successful or not, but I said, I can't keep working for other people and expect a different result, which is I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And, and frankly, this is something that a lot of veterans can appreciate, whether you're a male or a female. As a female veteran, people are just intimidated by you and I think this is any veteran almost. You go to a job and you go work. And veterans have an incredible work ethic and we have incredible resilience and innovation in ours because that's the way we were raised in the military. And the civilian sector, they want that. But then when you're actually doing the work and you're in the company, they don't appreciate it. People get scared by your work ethic. They get scared by your innovation. They get scared by the team leadership concepts and that you bring into the table. And ironically, my boss at my last job was a retired Army. And I will say this publicly. I was like, I know she let me go because she was extremely intimidated by me and because she thought I wanted her job. I don't want your damn job. If I wanted your job, I would have applied for it. That's what she didn't, I'm sitting there thinking, why don't you collaborate with me so we can continue to do this amazing work that I had started to do within the clinic, which was starting training programs and doing all this cool stuff that we were doing that was helping the patients. It was helping the team. It was improving care instead of being intimidated by me because I'm simply just doing my job. I just don't get that. So anyways, she terminates me. Hey, this isn't working out. I ask her, what's not working out? Because I haven't gotten any bad feedback and I know I'm doing a good job. And luckily at that point, I was already looking at business ownership. It was just a matter of, I needed to push off the ledge to say, it's okay to do this something different, to go this different path, because I was really struggling with that. And so then I started the business and I've been in business now for 3 years. Actually, ironically, I opened up my doors to my business the week the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow. Hello.
Yeah.
How'd that turn out for you?
Well, it was interesting because what I do is I work from home. It worked out in my favor because if you know me, I have my hands in a million different projects and stuff going on. Okay. And because of the pandemic, everything shut down. It forced me to concentrate on the business and to learn the business. If COVID hadn't happened, I think I still would have been traveling and hanging out with friends and doing all the stuff that I normally do. And I think that really probably would have slowed down my progress in the business. But it was okay. It was, it's a hustle. I hate that word, but it's a hustle. I mean, you still have to work hard, but now at least you're working for yourself and there's equity in what you're doing. And the biggest thing for me is I can control my schedule and my lifestyle. And also I'm still impacting lives. I'm still making a difference in people's lives, just in a different way.
Yeah, and do you ever hear this stat? It was like after World War I, I think like 50% or like 40 or 50% of all small businesses were veteran owned, and now it's like I don't even know. It's like less than 3% or something like that. So yeah. It's kind of mind boggling when you wrap your head around that. There's no better person to be a entrepreneur than a veteran. Like you said, we got the work. We got the work ethic, you got the drive, you got the resiliency, you got the determination. But I wanna share a quick story with you that you said that you felt threatened, right? And I felt the same thing. Okay, I finally, like, I went through the same thing you did a little bit. I got out, I had a good job, but then my girlfriend at the time was pregnant, so I came back and I started working in like restaurants, and no one wants to pay you low end. You know, they treat you like crap.
Yeah.
So I left those jobs. You know, you feel like you're on the top of the world when you're not in a contract. You say, you know what? I'm done. I won't come back tomorrow. You know, and that's honestly, I'm not saying that's best practice. By no means, it's not. But when you're not appreciated and you're getting treated like dirt in the civilian world, you have that chance to say, I'm not coming back, and you don't have to. So don't be like me by any means, unless you can do it financially or whatever. You know what I mean? But that is you have that option out here. You don't have to do something that you hate. You're in control. Don't be miserable. Go find out what it is you want to do. But
absolutely. And I would even challenge you, Michael, to say, if you're that miserable, listen, life is short. And when you get to your deathbed, nobody says, I wish I would have spent more time at work. I wish I would have done, whatever job it was. Most people on their deathbed, they're like, I wish I would have traveled. I wish I would have done all the things I wanted to do, spend more time with my family, whatever it is. So if you're that miserable at a job, which I have been,
same.
Like when I retired, when I resigned from my first civilian job, my family, it was a good government job. My plan had been to stay there as a GS until my second retirement. I had a great plan, but I literally felt so, first of all, I was so stressed out at that job. I was so stressed out. But when I felt like so underappreciated and unappreciated for all the work I was doing, I was like, nope. There's a Zig Ziglar documentary, and someone on that documentary made a quote that has always stuck with me. And the quote was something to the effect of, don't stay somewhere where you're not where you're just tolerated. Stay where you're appreciated. And that has always stuck with me, because I'm like, that is exactly right. And if nothing else in my business, I may not be making $1 million, but I know the clients that I have changed their lives, they will never forget the impact that I've had on them. And it's sad, because I bring a lot to the table as a professional. So this is another thing. Don't feel like if you're just an E4, E1 or whatever, and you get out of the military and you don't have anything to offer. You have a lot to offer. You have a lot to offer, and don't let anyone dismiss your work ethic and the experience you bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but don't stay somewhere where you're miserable, because life is too short. Life is short.
Hey, they say the most valuable place is the graveyard, because that's where everyone's dreams and goals go to die. And once you're there, you can't. That's Les Brown right there. He's another motivational speaker I like. But yeah, that was a pretty good one. But when I got a job contract, I got my first job contracted in Dubai to go work in the DFAC, right? I got over there. You know, the first couple of days, you sort of feel everything out, see how everyone's going, you know. But then I started getting busy, because that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind working. I've always been a hard worker. Hey, what are you doing? What? I'm filling drinks in the cooler, man. What are y'all doing? Sitting down doing nothing? Like, well, you come on, sit down. You ain't got to do that. You know, it was just the same thing that you dealt with. I was 30 years old. I got hired as a supervisor. I'm not here for no one's job. I'm here to get financially free for my son and for myself, for my family. But they felt threatened by me, and that's the reality of it. And they didn't like that. And they tried to conspire against me. And I said, holy crap, I'm not used to this, because I'm used to being part of a team. I'm used to being, no one's throwing shade. I mean, there was a little bit in the military, but usually it's out of all good faith. But I had experienced that firsthand as well. And I had to leave. And I loved Dubai. I was making great money, 6 figures. I was making great money, and Dubai was an amazing place to go party and travel and, eat, and all that stuff's there. But if you don't work with good people and you're with them for 13 hours a day and they're making your life a living hell, I said, I'm going to look for another job, because I'm over here. I'm not over here for myself. I'm over here for my family's sake. If it was for me, I could have played that game and got nasty too. But why even play with your mental health like that? Because it's not good. You, instead of creating something like you said, why can't we all work together? We're all professionals at the end of the day. You're here because you got here probably, or you know somebody, but you probably still have some type of value to bring to the table. Absolutely. But why are we against each other?
I don't know. And Michael, the other thing that drives me crazy too is this whole sense of competition. I'm like, listen, there is so much work to be done
Oh,
in
yeah.
any organization. In any organization, why are you sitting there being competitive and paying attention to so-and-so, what Susie Q is doing, instead of paying attention to what the hell you're doing and how you're contributing to the mission? And
Right.
that's another thing that has always driven me. This is a really big thing in nursing, is like everybody's feeling so competitive. I'm like, why? There's so much work to be done. There's so many ways that you can, if you go in and do the work and you're authentic and you're contributing back, you're going to get recognized eventually. But why are you competitive with whoever? I mean, that's the thing that just drives me absolutely bonkers. Just bonkers. There's so much work to be done.
No shortage in medicine, right? Anytime soon. It's
Medicine,
like,
military, anything,
yeah.
anything. There's always work to be done.
Yeah. So we definitely had shared some similar experiences. It's kind of mind-boggling, but hey, we made it through to where we are today with with all those experiences, and that's molded us to the people we are now. So what's something that you struggle with the most mentally getting out of the service, like, that comes to mind?
I think my sense of purpose was probably the biggest thing. I had this community that I would put on that uniform, and I was so proud to wear that uniform and so proud of my work. And when you get out of the military, you kind of lose that a little bit, because you go in these organizations and the mission and the leadership is not clear. So I think, and even now, I mean, I'm 56, I've been out of the military for 9 years, and I'm still trying to figure out what's my real purpose here on this earth. But that's just me as a person. I've just always been like that. But I miss that uniform. I do miss the sense of purpose. And, frankly, I miss the people. I mean, I was very blessed that throughout my military career, I have an amazing, amazing network of beautiful military friends. But it's one of those things that in the civilian sector, it's just really hard to find that. And it's such a shame, because you spend most of your time at work. So, if you're not working with people that you enjoy and people that you like, it just kind of makes work kind of blah.
Or they need to get online with you and get a franchise going. Let's go get these businesses going, vets. Let's go. What y'all waiting on, man? There's so many programs out here. Yeah, start a bit. There's so many programs out here that are for veteran, like the IVMF, Institute of Veterans and Military Families out of Syracuse. I mean, I did a cohort with them and got to, it was called Entrepreneurship Boot Camp for Veterans. And we did like 24 days online. And then I got to go to Cornell for like 10 days, everything paid. It's like a master's degree. You get network, you get in their network. We just had an alumni reception or whatever, like last year at Syracuse. And then we just had another thing for veterans that are entrepreneurs and have a existing business. They had a meetup in April in Dallas. It was like hundreds of veterans, and people would be amazed if they actually just tap into the resources they have, and everyone's willing to help, because everyone knows what it's like. It's like, man, they might be on the Fortune 500 list for Vet Inc. 100. So it's like the top 100 veteran businesses in the Fortune 500. But they're up there. There's 100 businesses, and there's 100 more people sitting in the audience, and there's probably thousands of veterans. So I think we should keep sharing the word of entrepreneurship and that for sure. That's a great topic. And you're not going to work harder. If you work for the military, why wouldn't you work harder for yourself and your own family, whatever venture you choose to do? It doesn't matter if it's a coaching. I sell used clothing. I'm not afraid to admit it, but I'm trying to make $100,000 out of my garage. So, I mean, I could work an hour or two a day. You can go to Goodwill and look for clothes or a garage sale. It's all possible out here. I mean, we live in a world of opportunity, the land of opportunity. We're selling other people's trash, selling other people's. You just got to get creative and want it. If not, I mean, you're going to throw a pity party and be like, hey, everything's going wrong. Well, what are you trying to do to make it right?
Amen, brother.
I was there, though. I was there before. So it's not like I'm saying this all out of, I've been on the high horse ever since I got out. Like I told you before, I had a rocky patch to get out, but it's cool that we can talk about it today.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to hit on something real quick. I'm in business, right? And I didn't know there was a vet Fran or a vet 100 or 500.
100 or whatever, yeah.
100, yeah, I'll have to look into that. But the other thing you hit on something that's really, there are so many different programs out there for veterans to help you thrive. And if you're not taking advantage of all that stuff, I don't feel sorry for you, because there are so many programs out there. And that's the thing too, that none of that was, maybe it was available when I retired, but no one tells you about any of that stuff. I just happen to stumble on things, through my networking and all of that. And that's something else that people don't realize. There's so many fellowships and entrepreneurship programs and women's programs to help you, transition. And there's the mission continues. And there's just so much out there. And that's how you stay connected and how you continue growing and developing.
Absolutely. We need to create an app that has like every vet program all under one roof. That way people can, instead of like scrolling TikTok, they can like scroll on what they're going to get involved in or something like that. But we got to get, we need a developer. We need developers over here. We need some, we need some people to get on board.
I think you're onto something. You should do that, Michael.
I got the ideas. I need people to help me, just like the video editing. So if you're out there listening and you know how to edit videos or make shorts, reach out. We need you. I need you. Vets need you. What's one word you would describe your military service?
Prideful. And I mean prideful that was really proud of that time in my career.
Oh, no problem. What was your favorite place that you got to see while you were like on orders, not on vacation, but like favorite place that you got to go to? Minus Afghanistan.
I'll say England. I mean, that was
I thought you were gonna say that after you said you always wanted to go when you got that. I was gonna say, I should probably say England maybe. But
yeah, it was just a great assignment. It was a great assignment.
What was your favorite food that you ever ate in the military prepared by service members?
I won't say prepared by service member, but I will tell you, I still think about this meal in Afghanistan. One of the local contractors had me and a couple of the guys out, and they prepared this Afghan meal that to this day I will never forget. It was one of the best meals I've ever had. It was phenomenal. It was so good.
What was it, like curry, like lamb curry or something like that?
It was lamb, and they just had these like salads with like fresh tomatoes and herbs and rice and naan, and it was just, I just remember the flavors and the scents and everything were just phenomenal. And if you look at any of my military pictures, there's a picture of me surrounded by some Afghan boys, and it was that day, and that was one of the best days I had in Afghanistan. It was a great memory. I
saw the picture of you with the rifle when you had those jump boots on, when you're like in your pickle suit. I saw that one. But so what you're saying is Afghan locals are better chefs than the military. That you heard it first here, folks. Afghan locals had better.
Listen, I was at Tinsley. We were in the middle of nowhere, and I swear the cooks that we had there were Afghans, and I think sometimes I felt like they were trying to kill us, but no, it's good.
Oh God, that's what they say. Military cooks, death from within. That's what they say. Hey, you gotta love it though. What I got a new one that I haven't asked anyone this, but it's pretty funny. Like, so, like, they love doing AARs, right, in the military, the after action review. So if you had to do an after action review of your service, what was of your service, like leaving service, what would be a recommendation, sustainment, and an improvement? What would you say?
Hold on 1 second, because I have a client that I need to get on the phone with.
Oh, you good? All right, you good?
Yeah. No, but I'm loving this conversation. Please give me. Hold on a second. Okay. An improvement. You mean for transition or for the military?
Yeah, transition. Yeah.
I think that TAPS, or the form of TAP, the program, needs to be run with not just these random GS workers. I think it needs to be run by people that are actually transitioned out.
Interesting.
So or at least have us come in as guest speakers to do a panel to talk about best practices, learn lessons in that. That's probably one of the biggest things I would do. And I think that's, and just have a way for veterans to connect with all these. There's like so many damn resources that it's almost overwhelming, and have that in one spot where we can kind of like see what's out there, or have representatives, or do something like that where, all the different options available.
Okay, last question I'm gonna hit you with is, who do you have to give up as a name for a call to action for this podcast right here to come share their story? You got anyone in mind?
Oh gosh. Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, no problem. Just send them my way. I was just gonna make you call them out right here. That way, if they hear the episode, that
you know what? I'm gonna give you somebody. She's a new client of mine. Her name is Jackie Zappi. She's a Navy veteran. She's awesome.
Jackie, awesome. You better listen to this and get back on and get online. But hey, Elise, I don't want to take any more of your time. I'd love to catch up with you though more if you ever want to get on here and talk more. Absolutely. Let's do it. But you got anything else to say, or are you good?
No, I got to run. My client is.
All right. Hey, sorry. Hey, we're 5 minutes late. We're about to get UCMJ, so I'll holler at you next time. Thanks for everybody listening in. Until next time. Hopefully, we're not in the brig. I'll see you. See you, Elise.
Bye. Take care. Bye.